I was out walking around my neighborhood earlier and walked by this front porch, and there's a trash can sitting there in the grass on top of a piece of old nasty cardboard, and there's a bucket laying there sideways, and grown up grass and weeds and dead plants and some broken pottery laying out there, and it's just a wild mess of clutter and garbage and untidiness. And there's Christmas lights put up, and there's an American flag put up on a pole there sticking off the front porch, and there's a sign laying there propped up against the wall surrounded by garbage that says, "This is our happy place." And the crazy thing about this is the house doesn't look that bad. It's not like it's really exactly run down. It's just untidy. It shows that whoever lives there put a little bit of effort into trying to make the place look attractive, trying to show that they had pride in themselves or pride in their country, a little bit of desire to make it look nice. They wanted to put that decoration there that said, "This is our happy place." They wanted to put up the Christmas lights. They wanted to put the deck chair out there. They wanted to show some level of interest. But they didn't want to take the time to clean up. They didn't want to cut the grass. They didn't want to pick up the garbage. They didn't want to declutter. It wasn't important enough for them to be a good steward of that space. And I thought that's such a great example of how we can go wrong in life. Sometimes we think that we want to show a glimmer of aspiration to change. Maybe we want to acknowledge that we could do better or be better. And so we exude just a little bit of interest. But we never really are willing to actually take steps to transform our lives. If it actually requires effort, we lose interest. Because you can go to the store and you can buy some cheap decorations, and you can think, well, these will make my house look a little bit better. Just like maybe you could go on social media and make some sort of aspirational post to make it look like you're interested in transforming your life. You can always do those little superficial things, it's true. But the reality is, what really makes a difference is just good stewardship of what you have. It's not about decorating your house better. It's about being a good housekeeper of the home that you have. I always think it's interesting when you see people put pumpkins out for Halloween and the harvest season, and then the pumpkins just never leave. They sit there on the front steps rotting, and they start to cave in on themselves after a while. And it's obvious that the people who live in the house are continuing to walk by these rotting pumpkins every single day. And the effort of just picking up the rotted pumpkin and putting it in the garbage, because now it's not only after Halloween, but it's after New Year. It's not worth the effort. And I see that and I think, well, why did you even put the pumpkin there? Like, why not just not do it? Save yourself the $5 or whatever it cost to get that pumpkin to begin with. Just don't get the pumpkin. If you ain't gonna do the basic amount of effort to pick up the pumpkin after Halloween, and you're gonna leave it there rotting, why did you even put that effort in at the beginning? And it's so true, though, in our lives, we're like that. Like, why do you put effort in? On the front side, why put a little bit of effort in to show that you're interested if you're not going to follow through with any kind of meaningful action? Why not just put no effort in if you're not going to go any further? It's like, I remember, and I think I've told this story before, but it comes to mind frequently, talking to my old Sunday school teacher about how I was a backslidden sinner, and that was back when I was a teenager, and, you know, pretty easy to be a backslidden sinner when you're a teenager in a conservative, somewhat cult-like church. But that's another topic. I just remember going to him and confessing, and he just pretty much said, you know, are you coming to tell me all this about yourself because you just want me to have sympathy for the fact that you're permanently lost and you've decided to turn your back on God and turn your back on the church? Because if that's what you're doing, if you just came to me to tell me that you're lost, then I don't need to know it. And if you want to change, then you're going to just have to change. It's just that simple. It's that way in our life. Sometimes we like to advertise our brokenness. We like to advertise the beginning of a potential journey of transformation. We like to send signals that this is a new day. It's like those weight loss campaigns that begin at the beginning of every new year, and people say new year, new you, and you're going to go do something different. You're going to get that gym membership. You're going to challenge yourself in a new way. But if it wasn't important enough for you to do it in December, and it wasn't important enough for you to do it last October, and it's now important enough for you to do it the first week of January, well, by the fourth week of January, you're going to have lost interest just like you did last year. Just like the old decorations sitting there. They don't do anything to make that front porch look good. All they do is blend in with all the other garbage and clutter. They don't tell a story other than they stand as symbols of a lack of stewardship and a lack of interest, a lack of motivation, a lack of willingness or capacity to change. So as we live our lives, it's important to not send signals that we want to do better without actually backing those up with some kind of meaningful, conscious efforts to consistently be a good steward in our life. I think it's really important to understand that having more things doesn't make your life better. Doing more with the things you have makes your life better. And that's true in so many different ways. It's like when people say, well, I should go to college and I should get a college degree. Well, maybe. Maybe if you need that. Maybe if you understand that in order to do what you're passionate about doing, you're going to need a degree to do it, to learn the knowledge you need to do that particular thing. And a good example of that might be coding. If you wanted to be a software engineer, well, you're going to have to go to school to learn how to be a software engineer. I mean, maybe you could teach some of it to yourself by yourself, but pretty much you're going to have to study if you're going to learn that stuff. So that would be a useful skill to study and learn. But what about a degree in business administration? Okay, so what are you going to learn? You're going to learn how to be a manager? because you don't need a degree for that. Maybe you need leadership skills to do that, but you don't need a degree. And if you couldn't be a good leader, if you didn't have the capacity to have management skills at the beginning, a 4-year degree isn't going to get you there. There's people who are sitting around on government assistance, collecting money from the government because they can't hold even an entry-level job, and they have bachelor's degrees. And I know this because for many years my mother was one of those people. There's people who go through college on subsidies or loans, and they come out of college and then they realize that in real life you have to have basic levels of common sense and motivation, and a 4-year degree is not going to give you a free pass. But for people who lack motivation, for people who lack a sense of direction, who just want that future, but they don't want to chase it, they don't want to actually have to do something different in their life, well then maybe that's a crutch. It's good for the people who actually need it, but it can be a waste of time for other people who really just need to get to know who they are and find a path that works for them. It's important for us to do a reality check in our life and then figure out how to be good stewards of what we have. And there's a lot of times when it feels like you want to just add some decorations to the garbage, because it's easier to do that than it is to go clean up. Start by cleaning up your life. Start by making agreements with yourself and then keeping your word. And that's really probably what it finally comes down to. It's, do you have the ability to keep your word? We like to trick ourselves into thinking that some new gimmick is going to be what makes us finally start keeping our word. In reality, we aren't going to ever be able to find a gimmick that makes us able to keep our word if we couldn't keep our word without it. And when I say keeping our word, I'm not saying so much your relationship with others, though it certainly includes that. It's your agreements that you make with yourself. When you say, I'm going to do this, I want to do this, do you do it? Or does another day go by and you put off change or investment in yourself or finishing a project for another day? The power of change is just a matter of having personal discipline. If you wanted to be an author, you go out there and you find there's all these tools, and they're all going to say it's a new cool thing that's going to help you be organized, it's going to help you write a good book, it's going to be a great tool that has an amazing editor or something like that. And the truth is, you could write a book with a pen and paper and some college rule paper. The great novelists probably just sat down and they wrote with a typewriter or pen and ink. If you don't have the motivation to do it, that tool that you pay $300 for or something is not going to give you motivation that you didn't have before. The college degree isn't going to give you drive that you didn't have before. The new computer that I buy is not going to give me motivation to finish all those existing games in my library that I never actually got around to playing. The new fitness campaign or gym membership isn't going to give you the motivation to work out that you didn't have. last year. You have to make a decision that you really want change enough to do something different. And when that happens, it happens in an instant, and it's simple. It's like the people who spend their whole life being drug users or alcoholics, and then they hit rock bottom. Maybe they lose a spouse, or they lose their success in life because of a bad habit or an addiction. And they decide, you know what, I'm going to do something different now. I can't afford to have this bad thing in my life anymore. Then it's like flipping a switch. There's people who walk away from bad habits and they just never pick them up again because they understand there's nothing to be gained there anymore. And so they change. But that's a personal journey. You have to get there. And if you're not there, then no amount of gimmicks is going to change it. It's like a period of time when I used to go to various casinos, because I lived in the Washington state area, and there were a lot of Indian casinos. And so if I had nothing better to do, I might go in there and gamble on a slot machine, and had a little bit of luck, won $700 one day. I thought, no, that's pretty cool. And then subsequently, I wound up not really having much luck anymore. I think the last time I put any money into a slot machine, it was in Las Vegas. I put $50 in a slot machine and lost it all immediately at the end of a trip there. But in any case, it's been quite a few years since I've put a single penny into a slot machine. And I don't really care about doing it, because there was that point when I realized that I don't get anything out of this. I'm not going to get any money out of this. I'm not going to get any joy out of this. So why would I do it anymore? So I lost interest in it. There's just nothing appealing there, because I actually came to an understanding. There's no reason for me to do this. When we get to the point where we really want change, that's when we're able to begin. And until we get to that point, no matter how much we might occasionally send signals that we are open to the idea of change, it will ultimately lead nowhere. Just like a few nice decorations surrounded by clutter and garbage on somebody's unkept front porch. So don't let your life be like that front porch. Take ownership in your life. If you want change, begin now. And remember that being a good steward of what you have will probably always do much more for you than having more. As always, thank you for watching. Good luck on your journey. Till next time. Thank you.